So I'm Synne from Nofence UK, and I'm going to quickly run you through how the system works and how you make sure that you succeed. And then I'm gonna leave it to those who've used the system. So Nofence is a GPS based system where we put colours on animals and then we draw pastures in an app. And what happens is if the animal crosses the boundary wearing the colour will start making an audio warning. And if the animal, so what the animals do then is that they turn around and go back into the pasture to avoid what is last resort, which is a pulse, if they don't manage to turn around. So the basic function of the system is, instead of using the animal's eyes to see a fence, we use their ears, so they listen for the fence and turn around. And this works, so we can fence animals without putting up physical boundaries. And I often get asked what happens if an animal escapes. And before I explain this, just please note that this is very rare. Many of our customers never experience escapes, but sometimes they do happen. So if an animal wanders through the first boundary, gets a pulse, that process will repeat itself 3 times. And on the third one, it would have escaped. And you will receive a notification on your phone every time the animal receives a pulse or escapes. And when the animal has escaped, there's no more pulses until the animal has returned. So they're not running around constantly getting pulsed. They would have escaped, and you will still have their position. And either way, if you go out there and take them back, or if they walk back in themselves, the fence function is automatically reactivated, and there's no pulse when returning into a pasture. So the animals are free to walk in, and that's what we find as well. If a single animal escapes, they normally return to the rest of the herd. So I'm quickly just going to run you through how the app works, because it's a good indication of how does it work for you in everyday life. And most operational tasks, or every operational task, happen in the app on your phone. So you use the phone to create pastures, where you put down posts, and the system draws lines between them to create pastures. And then you select the colours that are going into this new pasture that you've drawn. And then you load all the colours. As you can see, these 3, I guess they are Beatles members, are now loading a new pasture. And once they've uploaded the new pasture, you move them in at any point. And as I said, there's no pulse when going into a pasture. So once I've uploaded the fence, they're free to walk in at any point, and they will not be registered as escaped until they've actually been into the area. And after I've done this and the animals are in grazing, I can monitor them, so I can see their position. The white dots down here, that's their current position, and the system automatically gets an update every 15 minutes. But then if I need real time, I can ask for real-time positions. And this is how I monitor them. And then I can view an individual colour and look for where they've been for the past 24 hours, as well as where they've gotten audio warnings or pulses. And then, as I said before, you are always alerted with a push notification if an animal receives an electric pulse or escapes from the fence. So that's just how it works and how you operate it once you've come that far. And when you move to a virtual fence instead of a physical fence, a lot of people think it's complicated, but there's quite a simple recipe that if you follow, you're likely to succeed with Nofence, or we haven't had anyone really not succeed. So the recipe, it depends on so there's a few system requirements which I'll run you through, and then there is the animals need some training and some good pastures. So firstly, let's go to the 2G and GPS connectivity, and this is quite a normal question that we get. and it's not straightforward or an answer you can think for yourself. So we use both the GPS and the GSM or the 2G network to run the system. The GPS gives positions and therefore decides when to give audio warnings and pulses. And we use the 2G network to upload pastures, edit pastures, move animals, and to give notifications. So what you should draw out of this is that if you have 2G, you get the full benefits of the system, but you don't need 2G for a working fence. So let's say I've got poor coverage in the mountains where I put my goats. I can upload the pasture when I'm down at the farm and then take them up there, and they'll still be fenced in, so the fence is still working, although there isn't great 2G coverage. But obviously the best thing is to have proper coverage. And the good thing for us in the UK is that we roam, so we have a SIM card in every colour, roam with O2, EE and Vodafone, which means that our system basically looks for the best connectivity and uses that to connect with you. So we have a bit broader connectivity. And then we have a recommendation that is that all adults have a colour, and this is because we often get the question, what if I put it on 5 out of 15? But then our answer is that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have success, because those without a colour will naturally graze further than those with a colour, and those then with a colour will often follow the rest of the herd out of the pasture, because the instinct of staying with the herd is stronger than the fear of a pulse. So we got to play teams with nature when we do virtual fencing. And then there is the training bit, and often I get the question about this, so that's why I'm just going to run you through very quickly. We do recommend training, so that is about the animals needs about a week. We recommend leaving them in this pasture for about a week, but again, most of them learn after a couple of days. So if you can see, the black line is a physical boundary, and then the red line is a virtual boundary. And as you can see, my 3 goats in the middle here, they're wearing colours and they're experiencing 3 physical sides and the virtual sides, and that makes it easier for them to navigate. So they won't, when they go onto the 3 physical sides, there won't be any audio, and it's easy for them to understand that there's just that one boundary, and most of them will have to get the audio and understand that they get a pulse if they don't switch off the audio. So once I've done this for a few days, I might stretch the boundary a bit further up and introduce a boundary behind them or beside them to teach them that it's changing and that they need to use their ears to figure out where the new boundary is. So that is the training. And then there is, we also advise drawing understandable pastures, and this is because some animals need to learn, or for the animals to understand where to go and where not to go. The pastures should be understandable, because the system allows you to draw very complicated pastures. But again, we have to remember that there are animals who are going to walk into these pastures, and they need to understand where to go and where not to go. That's why we say that good pastures above 90 degrees. And this is because if I put a tight corner in my pasture, the animals can wander onto the boundary on one side and then turn around and meet the audio again and get confused about where to go and where not to go. That's why we recommend that. And then we recommend avoiding small corridors. This is for the same reason. You don't want the animals to go onto the boundary on one side and then meet the boundary again on the other side. And then to some extent, enough feed. I think this is mostly a Norwegian case where they'll take the animals down from the mountains, but keep them just outside the fresh green cultivated land. And then it becomes a cost benefit analysis because the feed is getting poor at the end of the season in Norway. And as James can confirm, although he's done kind of managed grazing, the animals haven't escaped over to the new fresh grass. And then this is just an example. So if you do exclusion zones in the middle of your pasture, as you can see from the picture on the left, they've used kind of 8 small exclusion zones, and this creates a lot of tiny corridors, which is hard to navigate for the cattle. So then we recommend fencing off the entire area. So if you do all of those 3, the 2G and the all adults, and do the training and draw understandable pastures, there's no reason why you shouldn't succeed with Nofence. And I'm saying that with confidence, because we haven't really had anyone who doesn't succeed with switching to virtual fences. So we're not going to get very specific on the prices, but I'm just going to explain them. So our prices are separated into 2. So there is the product prices. So you buy the collars, the neck straps, the batteries, and the chargers. That's just hardware cost, upfront investment. And then there is a subscription fee, which covers the application, remote software updates, support line that's open 8 till 4 on weekdays and Saturdays during summer season. And then the 2G roaming is included in that as well. And you get 25% off just now as an introductory offer into the UK when you place an order for colours for the 2021 grazing season, and you're not invoiced until delivery in mid-April. And this is just an introductory offer this year in the UK and in Ireland, if anyone's interested in that as well. So I think that was it for me, Phil.
Thank you, Synne. And any questions for Synne, please?
Hi, it's Nick here.
Hello.
Hello. So just to get it straight, once the livestock are trained, you could actually have a virtual fence on a piece of land and have no visible boundaries, and they will, and that's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So the visible is mostly to because they can get a bit in the beginning when we do the training, they can get a bit jumpy to start with. So it's just to control that they're not running into anything. But yeah. So and also when you've done the training 1 year, and let's say you're introducing 5 more animals next year, you don't need to do the full training because they learn from each other. So it's mostly a one-time thing.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you. I think Lisa's got a question there. Go on, Lisa.
Yes, I have. Hi, Synne.
Hi.
So I was just wanting a bit of clarification on the issue with the 2G and lack of signal in certain places. And you were saying that that's the case in Norway, and a lot of places you've got 2G out on the mountains and everything, but not the signal. But you can upload on your phone where you have got signal and then move the animals out to where there is less signal, and that works okay. My query on that is what happens when you want to move them off again, because does it work that you can go back to the place with signal with your phone and unload the pasture so there is no pasture, and then go back out to where the animals are, and it will, you know, because you had the phone when you took that pasture off, where it was good signal, will that update everything quickly then?
So I understand your question, and that's probably the hardest one to solve when it comes to coverage, because the collars will also need coverage to receive the message that you're moving them out of the pasture. So what I have then is the customers solve it differently, but there's a few who are kind of tactical about where they take the animals out. So they take them out in an area where they know that they're going to have coverage to switch off the fence, or you can physically remove the collars. We're also hoping to get to a point at some stage, hopefully, where we can use other kind of communication to switch the fence off. but as of now, there's no kind of good solution to that particular case, other than finding good spots of coverage or removing the colours.